Okay, we are ready, Madam Mayor.
Okay, I'll call this meeting to order. It's a meeting of the Seward City Council. This is Monday, October 9th, 2023. It is 7 p.m. Chief, would you please lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Okay. Roll call for tonight's meeting. Wells.
Here.
Osenga.
Here.
Finch.
Here.
Barnwell.
Here.
Calhoun.
Here.
And Madam Mayor McCook.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. We're now at citizen comments on any subject except items scheduled for public hearing. We have no public hearing items scheduled. This will be a total of 36 minutes maximum, and you'll get 3 minutes to speak. When you come up to speak, you'll be seated there, and we'll need your name and whether you live inside or outside the city limits, and you'll have 3 minutes. The people that have signed in will get the first shot. So, Madam Clerk, who has signed in?
Megs Testamata.
Megs Testamata, inside the city limits. So today, Bobby Kennedy announced he was going to run as an independent candidate for president to unite the country. And I say that because I think we need to unite the city around this electrical issue. You know, there's been a lot of divisiveness, and I think now is the time to work together. And I was on the Electric Ad Hoc Committee. We asked 3 times to have a work session. You know, we didn't have maybe a perfect budget, but we had a rough draft of something. We wanted to sit down and work it out with the finance department and the city officials, and we never got that. And I'm hoping now that the election is over, that maybe you can, like, you know, sit down with us and we can all work together to try to make electricity affordable and reliable in Seward, because the affordability is the issue. And we had some ideas about how to make it affordable. And we just like to, you know, work it out and not have this tit for tat in the newspaper. I mean, that's not getting us anywhere. So I appreciate that. And, you know, the committee members, lots of them put in a lot of background hours. And they know a lot now. And, you know, we realize that you folks have so much on your plate as city council members, you can't dive into this like we did. But I really want to encourage you to consider having a utility board, like lots of places have, because, you know, that's what's really needed in this town, is a group just like, you know, the Harbor Commission and everything else, a group that just focuses on the utilities. And I don't just mean electricity. I mean, we have water and sewer, we have garbage, you know. So anyway, please consider putting that in your thoughts, and maybe, you know, in a resolution, and doing some research on what we need to make a utility board here. But in the meantime, you know, please, we want to talk about the budget. We want to help make this electricity work and make it affordable. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Brad Snowden.
I brought a visual aid. It's the crystal ball I use for seeing the future. And it's addressed here. And City Council.
You need your name and
How am I doing here? I just got done writing.
Brad, we need your name and...
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Read.
Just read.
Okay.
Tell
My
us
name's
your
Brad
name.
Snowden, and I live inside the city limits of Seward. About 55 years, as a matter of fact, so I have a little bit of experience with our town that we all love. I don't want to waste my time here, but none of it's waste. I made a list of towns we could probably look at and ask them with a phone call how they take care of their electricity. Ketchikan, Petersburg, Sitka, Hoona, Haines, Skagway. They all have to take care of their own, so they may have some suggestions for us. Okay, well, I'm here today because I want to plant a seed. I want to plant a seed inside of each and every one of you. The seed is one that will grow into Seward's future. Seward's future depends on you, our city council, and each and every one of us that live here. Like a door in New York City, it takes a number of keys to open it. For us here in Seward, a key to our future are the people. All of us together. I see the future as bright, healthy, and growing. There are jobs, growth, and opportunity. Seward's future starts here with this seed. As this seed gets planted, it will begin and grow with your watering it. The future I see has an airport that Alaska Airlines will fly in on 737s, that will require a 7,000-foot runway. Seward's future will require more things to do besides looking at and enjoying the absolutely stunning beauty of our town. This need will provide opportunity for us and our children and their children. Seward's future needs all of us. Even the ones who are content with things just as they are. People who have and are living their future. Seward's future needs your support and help to provide the needs for our town, for our children, so that they don't have to leave to find opportunity for their futures somewhere else. We all need to do, it depends on us and what we do now that lays the groundwork for tomorrow's future. I already, yeah, I'm almost there. I already look at that. In closing, let me say, let's root for each other and watch each other grow.
Thank you, Brad.
Thank you.
Of a man, and he will be missed. Tim McDonald, Inside City Limits. I don't know what's going on. I've been afar on this. I haven't been involved in it, but it's definitely not working. And bringing this up for a third vote when the people say no, 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 is just embarrassing. You know, I mean, who's running this town? You know, it's the people need to be serviced, and we want low rates, we want dependability. It's all real simple. Everybody knows it. And I concur with the first speaker. You guys are too busy for this. We need professional management for the utility. I mean, it's right up there with groceries and water and oxygen, you know. We can do a better job. We need to do a co-op. You guys need to let it go and let the citizens buy the utility and form a citizens co-op. It'll work. You know, the other thing is, no offense, but this volunteer government, which you all are a part of, is not working. And it hasn't worked for some time. Everybody's always at odds. We need professional management. We need somebody who's responsible. And that's what a standard, hard government is. There's responsibility. Right now, nobody's responsible. Everybody runs a business or has a full-time job. We deserve more. This town is going to turn into one of the finest it's the only good seaport in the Northwest past Seattle. You know, there's nobody else that has the road, the railroad. We don't have a big airport, but I'm pretty glad of that myself. I don't really need any more noise in the summertime. It's bad enough as it is. And, you know, Seward is a very important place, and our time is approaching, it sure appears right now, with all the world events and the military and stuff like that. you guys got to do it. You know, we need to annex to Mile 8 so we have more voters, and we need a hard government system. This is not working, it's embarrassing, and I'm going to quit voting if we don't do something. We have to do something about this situation. It's not working, folks. We don't like what you're doing. And we've said that twice, and you want to do it again. What's the deal? You know, do we have any voice in our own government at all? It doesn't appear so. So we need to change. We need to get more voters, and we need to be a hard government. Our mayor will be the city manager, and they will be elected in that thing, and that's the way it needs to be. Then the people can decide who runs their city. Thank you.
Madam Clerk.
That is everyone on the list.
So if anyone else wants their 3 minutes at this time, raise your hand and you can come on up. Anyone else wishing to speak? Wow. Okay.
Excuse me one second. Can I speak for somebody
No,
else?
no, you can only,
Can I turn it, give this
people,
copy then?
Brad, no. Does anyone else wish to speak? Okay, seeing none, I'll close this portion of the meeting, and we're to approval of the agenda and the consent agenda. I would ask for a motion to approve in a second, please.
Make a motion to approve the agenda and the consent agenda.
No, second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Are there any changes to the agenda or consent agenda? Seeing none, I think we're ready to vote, Madam Clerk.
Okay. Voting on today's agenda and consent agenda, Calhoun,
Yes.
Barnwell,
Yes.
Masenga,
Yes.
Wells,
Yes.
Finch,
Yes.
Mayor LaClerc.
Yes.
Today's consent agenda are approved, and on consent agenda is the approval of the September 25th, 2023 City Council meeting minutes, Resolution 23113, accepting and appropriating Community Assistance Program funds in the amount of $107.7085 for the purpose of capital projects related to fire, public safety, and road maintenance. Resolution 2023-114, urging the Alaska Legislature and Governor to fully fund the Municipal Harbor Facility Grant Program in the fiscal year 2025 state capital budget, certify the results of the October 3, 2023 regular municipal election, appoint Melissa Scudder to the Port and Commerce Advisory Board, PACAB, with the term set to expire July 2026. That is everything on the agenda and consent agenda items.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That brings us to proclamations and awards, and we have a proclamation, and we've got representatives from the fire department here. Why don't you come on up and stand up over here while I read this so that everyone can see you? Does anybody else want to come up? No? Okay. Whereas the City of Seward is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living in and visiting our town. And whereas fire is a serious public safety concern both locally and nationally, and homes are the locations where people are at greatest risk from fire. And whereas home fires killed more than 2,800 people in the United States in 2021, according to the National Fire Protection Association. And fire departments in the United States responded to 338,000 home fires. And whereas cooking is the leading cause of home fires in the United States, and fire departments responded to more than 166,400 annually between 2016 and 2020, and whereas 2 of every 5 home fires start in the kitchen, with 31% of these fires resulting from unattended cooking, and whereas more than half of reported non-fatal home cooking fire injuries occurred when the victim tried to fight the fire themselves. And whereas children under 5 face a higher risk of non-fire burns associated with cooking than being burned in a traditional fire. And whereas Seward residents should turn pot handles towards the back of the stove, always keep a lid nearby when cooking, keep a 3-foot kid-free zone around the stove, oven, and other things that could get hot, watch what they heat, and set a timer to remind them that they are cooking. And whereas residents who have planned and practiced a home fire escape plan are more prepared and will therefore be more likely to survive a fire. And whereas working smoke alarms cut the risk of dying in home fires almost in half. And whereas Seward first responders are dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires and home fire injuries through prevention, protection, and education. And whereas Seward residents are responsive to public education measures and are able to take personal steps to increase their safety from fire, especially in their homes. And whereas residents who have planned and practiced a home fire escape plan are more prepared and will therefore be more likely to survive a fire. And whereas the 2023 Fire Prevention Week theme, Cooking Safety Starts With You, pay attention to fire prevention, effectively serves to remind us to stay alert and use caution when cooking to reduce the risk of kitchen fires. Now therefore, I, Sue McClure, Mayor of the City of Seward, do hereby proclaim October 8th through 14th, 2023 as Fire Prevention Week throughout this city. And I urge all people of Seward to check their kitchens for fire hazards and use safe cooking practices during Fire Prevention Week 2023, and to support the many public safety activities and efforts of Seward's Fire and Emergency Services. Dated this 9th day of October 2023, signed by myself. And I will give this to some fire department people, and you want to say a few words?
I know, that was a long proclamation, I don't know what you said.
That was long.
Only one page.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Really, I mean, we don't have a lot. I think everybody, has been familiar with Fire Prevention Week for a long time. It's a program of the NFPA. Again, it's been around a long time. Unfortunately, all these programs, the codes, standards, everything we operate by, it's been brought about by tragedies and bad things that have happened. But the good thing is, we know how to mitigate those. So that's why we do what we do as firefighters. That's why we have a community risk reduction program within our fire department that includes the building department, my position as an inspector investigator, our chief, deputy chief, and then all of our volunteers. We all play, a role as a team to do what we can to keep the community safe. So, we can't build the relationships and things that we need to do to keep these programs going without the support of you guys and the community. So that's kind of why we do everything we can to be in the community, to build those relationships, and do the things that we do. So we just encourage everybody, our door is always open, as always. If people have questions, they want to just come and see us, they're welcome to do that. And then we want to be out in the community as well. So we have smoke detectors, we have other literature, anything we can hand out. So for those that are listening, if somebody needs a smoke detector installed, if you just need a run through of your house, you want ideas on best practice for fire safety, then please give us a call. And, Deputy Chief McCoy, do that information.
I was just going to say, in recognition of Fire Prevention Week, the Seward Fire Department would like all Seward residents and visitors to have a safe and happy holiday cooking season. If anyone has any questions about fire safety or any protection, please reach out to us like you were saying. We're at 907-224-3445 for a phone number, or we're at 316 4th Avenue. Feel free to stop by and tour the station anytime. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you very much. Thank you. That was a very good proclamation. Brings us to presentations. We have two, and the first one is with Christine Casagranda on the Brown and Hawkins Historic Building.
Madam Mayor?
Oh.
City Manager's report.
Oh, I'm sorry, but not yet. We have other reports. I am so sorry. I'm so anxious to get on with these presentations. Yeah, so City Manager, I just brushed right by you.
That's okay. I have not too much to add, but I do want to highlight some exciting things that happened this weekend. Both our cross-country girls team at the high school and the football team brought home the Division State Champ titles. Really exciting there. John, you're giving me a look. And since last time we met, I also joined the Alaska Sea Life Center Board, which was an exciting first meeting. We did receive news that Tara Reamer has resigned from that position but she'll be serving through the end of March, and I'm excited to serve a role on that board as we find that replacement. The Heat Loop project is kicking off this week to a really good start. We received grant funding to do the planning process in that, and the ball has been rolling really well so far. We also have a lot of new hires across several departments, which is really exciting, especially as we do struggle to fill a lot of positions. We've seen some new people coming in and starting, and a lot of good smiling faces in the City Hall and beyond. And you may have noticed that we're utilizing the City of Seward Facebook page a bit more. I went on there and changed the Facebook photo and the cover photo, as well as posting some updates during potential emergency services or just throughout the day. And I'm really hoping to utilize that as a communication tool in the Facebook realm. As we all know, rumors and information can fly abound on Seward Facebook pages. So hoping that over time, the community and the council learn to trust that as a reliable source of information in those situations. And then I would be remiss to say that the Touch a Truck this past weekend was an awesome event. Really cool to see a lot of city vehicles out there, as well as the volunteer fire department, Bear Creek, and the SVAC. And coming up on October 21st is the Nerf War. So if any children or adults want to participate in the Nerf War, that'll be October 21st at the library. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Questions for the city manager or assistant? Did you have anything to add, Assistant City Manager?
Go Seahawks. I had kids on both teams, so it was really exciting up there, and so it's just really great to see all that work that our coaches put in and the kids put in, and it takes a lot of community support to make that happen, so it's a fun weekend.
Okay, questions at all? All right, city attorney report. I didn't really mean to miss you. I was just moving along.
No, that's okay, and I'll move quickly so Ms. Casagrande gets a chance. It's like icing the kicker there. Yeah, the report is in the packet. Don't generally go through it line by line. I lament this every time, but so much of it is either confidential or sort of just dreadfully dull. But there was a line in there about 2 different police vehicles that were in Anchorage for repair, and by way of just I enjoy, we have a lot of long-term sort of academically interesting things, but occasionally my favorite things are to just solve a problem that comes up and do it quickly, whether that's public records or just something else that can be, just get unstuck with some advice. And there was recently a police vehicle, and the original quote given was $7,000, and then the person the place that fixed it wanted $12,000. There was months of back and forth about how that estimate got revised up without anybody knowing, and we were able to I wrote a demand letter, said we would be there with a check for $7,000. We expected to pick up the vehicle, and we showed up with a check for $7,000 and left with the vehicle, and that was the end of that. And I like being able to help with that kind of thing and just solve a problem. It's not the biggest dollar-wise or hardest legal work, but that felt good. So that's my selection of one thing to expand on a little bit. If anybody has any questions about the remainder of the report, I'm glad to answer them.
Okay. Are there questions for Sam? We're a quiet bunch tonight. Okay, thank you very much. It's good to have you here in person.
Thanks.
Instead of in the little box that I forget all the time. All right, now we're to presentations, and the first presentation is from Rusty Casagrande. And I believe you have a PowerPoint.
My name is Ristine Casagrande, and I am a realtor with Coastal Heritage Properties, and I am the property manager for Brown & Hawkins. And I recently have assumed a volunteer job of also being a project manager, a grants manager, and many other roles, including finding new friends. So in my property management, I have become extremely passionate about history just by being able to get into this building in particular, Brown & Hawkins. This is a picture of Brown & Hawkins when it was first built. It was one story. And I'm just going to share a little blurb business culture is community. Seward was built on entrepreneurship and still today is recognized by visitors and locals alike as a community that has deep-rooted business community. Oftentimes, business people are recognized as individuals that provide a service in exchange for making a profit. Likely, Mr. Hawkins and Mr. Brown did come to Seward in hopes of profiting, although what mustn't be forgotten or overlooked is that much like every business person that creates their startup, they too became embedded in the community. It was then, and still is today, local businesses that create the landscape, culture, and the town of Seward. Local business has always been about building a better community. Entrepreneurs like T.W. Hawkins particularly had a major role in growing and expanding the state of Alaska, from Seward all the way to Talkeetna. Hawkins was a major investor in many settlers' dreams, and he took risks that hopefully some of the investments could potentially pay off. In 1911, the Alaskan Northern Railway did all their banking at the Brown and Hawkins Bank. As the railroad and settlers forged north, so did Brown and Hawkins. Brown and Hawkins were major outfitters for western Alaska, as well as shipping provisions to settlers out of Seward. Brown and Hawkins provided goods from the vessel Bertha and Cook Inlet to Knik, opened a store in what was soon to become Anchorage, and even supplied settlers as far north as Talkeetna. Brown and Hawkins property represents the pride of entrepreneurship that our country was founded on. Brown and Hawkins has stood tall and remained successful for over 120 years because of the individuals that so passionately have provided the community with their services. The property is a reminder to all Americans, especially now in the day and age of corporate America, the importance to support and patronize local business as it is the local business people that aim to create the town, not just the business. This is the power of place. And that's just one small excerpt that I've taken out of the grant. Brown and Hawkins has hosted 2 presidents, President Harding as well as President Obama. Most recently, Brown and Hawkins is on the National Register of Historic Places, as well as the State Register, and our local historic preservation also has it on the local register. Recently, National Park Service has nearly completed the Historic American Building Survey, which is called a HABS survey, records for the Brown and Hawkins store, including a history, large format photography, and measured drawings. The collection will be included in the collection of the Library of Congress when completed in November 2023. I'm not sure if anyone recognizes this, but this is the old downtown Seward, and if you look to the left, or also the east side of the street, you'll notice that those buildings no longer exist. As we recently learned in Lahaina, Hawaii, the importance of preserving our history and keeping our history safe from fires is majorly important. And for those of you that don't know, the east side of 3rd Avenue did burn down to the ground. You'll notice when you go downtown, you'll see the east side is much different than the west side. The west side still has a lot of the old history that did not catch on fire. So now, for what I'm here to talk about, the Brown and Hawkins Fire Suppression Project. Why does Brown and Hawkins need a fire suppression system? For lots of reasons. For one, our history is our pride. It's our what we learned so much from, as I mentioned earlier in the beginning of the slideshow. It's also the best way to bring an old building to code for fireways. I mean, a lot of times over history and over time, you'll find that there's layers of sheetrock that go up in these buildings to bring them to code. And if you get an opportunity to look behind those layers of sheetrock, what you find is amazing craftsmanship, woodwork. Another thing that oftentimes you'll see happen is the historic machinery and stuff is getting replaced with with new age machinery and whatnot. So it's just a really good way to protect our community's history and protect the building itself. And it takes a lot of money to get it. So, I am here to let you guys know that we are currently applying for a CLG grant. A CLG grant is a Certified Local Government Grant. And for those of you that may not know, I've learned a lot, that the historic preservation was initially formed to be so that Seward could be a CLG government, meaning we created the historic preservation so that the city of Seward could accept federal funds in the form of CLG grants. This is a beautiful partnership with National Park Service, the city of Seward, and the state of Alaska Office of History and Archaeology. The process, very briefly, of what it will look like is we will bring a resolution to the Historic Preservation, and we will ask Historic Preservation to support our project and to make a recommendation to the City Council. And then we will ask the City Manager, if that does pass, to bring a resolution to the city and ask that the city acts in the capacity of a pass-through. We are applying for $50,000 of a approximate $350,000 project. We have put out to bid to 3 different contractors. We're in the process of finalizing those bids and doing walkthroughs with all the bidders. And we are looking for support from the city, and I appreciate everyone's time and the opportunity to present, and I look forward to seeing you guys hopefully again. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Would you be available for questions if they have?
Yes, absolutely, and I'm sorry I jumped around. Basically, we have our grant application done. The next step is going to be, I put a check in city legislation. It's because I've already wrote it, but it's not passed. So I'm sorry if that's any form of false advertising. Also, a memorandum of agreement that I will provide as well. All of this will be in the packet should we make it to your dais. And so what we're looking for is a yes from the city. So yes, Mayor, thank you.
Okay. Are there questions for Rissy about this? Yeah, Vice Mayor Rosenka.
What would be our role? Who would administer this in the cities, from the city's side?
So it would be administered through our finance department, but to the grantee.
No,
So-
right, I'm just trying to figure out what the city has to do if this is gonna be a pass-through from the city. What does that mean?
Can
mean,
So you guys have done pass-through grants, for example, for the Seward Prevention Coalition, where they provided you with a memorandum of agreement that made it really clear what you were doing was accepting the grants and passing the grants on to them, and they were initially the ones that were administering it. There is a part in the grant application that you'll see where the city does have to take responsibility for the grant, so there is some responsibility on the city's part, but we have a lot of support from National Park Service, and lots of support letters from local organizations, and it's still a ball that's rolling, and I hope that answers, but sorry, Tad, if that helps at all.
Yeah, it helps. It's a pass-through type thing where we would administer the beginning of it, but continuing forward, we would have the liability and hope that the partner continues on their side.
Follow-up?
just one more, so now that we're responsible, apparently, I hear correctly, where does how far does our liability go? I mean, once we pass it off, what's
Yeah,
our
so-
liability?
So I can say, there's a grant application, right? We submit that. They review the grant administration, reviews the grant. If it gets accepted, then we're told, you've been accepted. We have a project manager that is still it's a really hard time to present right now. These are questions that I would prefer to answer once it comes before you in a resolution. But basically, John, or Councilmember Osenga, it will be grant reporting. And we're currently in the process of a grant right now, and I have been reporting on a grant that is closing this month. So I do have experience doing that, and it would be 1 or 2 grant reports that would basically say what we're doing every quarter.
Councilmember Fitch.
I've got 3 questions. One, this is a 120-year-old building, and this code's been around for years. Why is it waiting till now for this to come up? Is the purpose of this for resale? And why put the liability on the city? Why not put it on the ones that are doing the grant, control the money? Why do you want the city to control the money to have the liability?
If you can.
Yeah, those are both really good questions, thank you. So this is not being done for resale. When Mr. Hugh passed away 2 years ago, Iris decided it was just something that organically happened just after his passing, that they had always spoke about doing a fire suppression system, but it was nothing that they were able to afford at those times. And she has become extremely passionate in preserving not just the history for Hugh, but this is a 4-generation building. And I'm not sure exactly what you mean by this code has been around for 120 years.
Well, I mean, the building's been around for 120
Yeah.
years, but this building code for fire suppression system has been around for many years.
The building is currently to code. We have fire inspections. So it's not that the building is out of code. This is just something that we want to do to preserve the history. And as far as the liability, a CLG grant is a certified legislative government grant that is available through the National Park Service, through SHPO. So it comes from National Park Service, it goes to the state, and then it goes to a city local government, and then the city local government can pass it through to wherever they pass it through to. So it's just it's a trickle of money, and like I said, it's a $350,000 project, and we are applying for $50,000 of help.
What is the liability on the city's portion of that? What?
We would retain full liability at the end of the day if the funds were not dispersed correctly. So it's a city grant. So essentially, in the past, we've used it for placards throughout town, or I think at one point we used the CLG grant to do a study up at the Jesse Lee home, or to fund some smaller projects throughout town for other reasons. But yes, it would be a city grant.
Other questions for Rizzi? Okay, thank you very much. Good presentation, and we'll be hearing more about this, I'm sure. Okay, and our second 10-minute presentation is Borough Mayor Peter Machicki. And he wants to tell us about a new idea he's got, and maybe field some questions.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Good evening. On the way here, I sort of resented or regretted funding the highway project.
Thank you.
You feel our pain. You feel our pain.
When it's done, it's going to be great.
Great.
So thanks for having me tonight. Hello, Mayor, and welcome to the Sea Life Board.
Thank you.
And welcome to the city, of course, but we haven't had a chance to really chat yet. Happy to be here. This is an icebreaker. So there's a reason I don't have a PowerPoint. I don't want to get into too many details, but I've spent a lifetime dealing with the fire service. I was on a couple of NFPA working groups through the years. Primarily my experience is working alongside them in a corporate setting. They were always our responders when I was in the industry. We work with them now in the Cook Inlet Harbor Safety Committee, where I'm chair. We've always depended on them. I'm always going to be a supporter of our first responders. And this is about a discussion. Like I said, this is an icebreaker. I've met with most of the chiefs in the area. I met last week with Chief Kreitz and Deputy Chief McCoy. Chief Bracken is here tonight. We have a fire service system in the Kenai Peninsula Borough. And in the early days of my involvement in Soldotna is when we decided to join CES. Central Emergency Services. So we had our own department, recognized the benefits of joining in a service area, which now has 26,000 people, I believe, in it, that we're serving through CES. And I'll just tell you, we never look back. It has worked very well. All the benefits I'm going to talk about tonight are things that are possible. But as an icebreaker tonight, I'm going to be asking you, we're going to be putting together a task force over the next couple of months where we'll lay out all of the absolute details. I can talk about some of them tonight, but there's a lot of questions that we need answered from the city, from the other areas that are largely volunteer, from folks that are currently in service areas on the east side. But the pitch is for an Eastern Emergency Services service area. And the things I want to talk about, we have issues, and today I had a wildland fire guy in the office as we were talking about some grants that are possible in dealing with beetle kill and fire breaks and some other things that are going unused that the state is holding funds for. And we talked about the Peshtigo fire, 1871, 2,500 fatalities. And we saw what recently happened in Lahaina. We have some exposures, and we have some tiny little departments that are functioning well. We're proud of the men and women that serve us in the fire service, but we can do better. And we can do better by coming together in this citizen-led government and providing better organization. We have communications issues. We have some shared services, but we have issues with not sharing training and apparatus and maintenance. And that's what a service area does. It just takes a larger pool of taxpayers with some common needs, and they spread those costs over a larger area. And some of the things that we've talked about, how does the city enter into that? Do the city residents pay an increased mill rate? Well, your effective mill rate right now is about 2.49. And that's essentially the 1.133 million that you spend roughly on fire service divided by your number of taxpayers. That's a lower number than most are paying in the other areas, but it's about what we're looking at for a mill rate when we combine what we're spending for all of the, not only service areas, but volunteer departments on the eastern side, and we divide that out. We're looking at a similar. So how would the city pay theirs? It depends, and that's one of the things we'll talk about. Would you pay on behalf of your current taxpayers, or would you have a borough mill rate that went to the city, and the city perhaps would lower their mill rate? That is a choice of yours as we move further along. So the numbers that we put together is not including the efficiencies that would occur if we were to combine. This is all of today's employees. This is all of the proposed employees that they had for Cooper Landing. This includes all of the current administrative employees, which CES runs with one. So it's not taking those efficiencies into account. If you were in fact to move the 1% funding that's currently going to Providence, you get pretty close with what you're paying today. So there's different things to talk about. Some of the things that I would say, we're going to continue running our service areas, so if this is supported, I'm not going to put it on the ballot. It would have to be citizen-led. So that means there's a system for residents putting something on the ballot. They're going to have to be informed over the next several months. Sometime in the spring, residents are going to have to decide if they're interested or not. The city will have to decide if they're interested or not. And if so, they can bring it forward. My job is to make sure in a slow and methodical effort that they have all the information available to them so that they can make the decision. But there are different ways that we can cover different things, and that's one of the things that we'll be talking about. There's not paramedics on this side. There are There's a volunteer ambulance service. Obviously, SVAC is very much needed if we were to combine, but it would likely result in at least some level of professional dependability, if you will. We'd have to talk about insurance differences, wages, equivalency. This that I'm looking at, the numbers that we've run, is with current employees and likely needing to add a couple of positions just to cover the east side adequately. I'm reaching out currently. I've already had a meeting with our federal delegation. I've been talking to state folks about the fact that we're expected to cover many highway miles of some 20, 30,000 people weekends of people from somewhere else, and we get very little help. We believe that we should have additional support from the state. We believe it could be available. Also talked to Chief Weston in Girdwood, who has a similar issue. We border them. So if this were to move in that direction, we would talk about where the likely border is between the Eastern and Central Emergency Services. This is timely. I know there have been things flying around about this, but really I wanted to kick it off to make sure that we're opening a discussion. Not proposing anything tonight because we have a lot of information to gather, but the city of Homer wants to have the same discussion. We have the same exposure on the south end. We have one city that's larger, another city that's smaller, and a whole bunch of disconnected communities with a lot of highway miles in between. So I'm going to cut it off there and see what kind of questions that you may have. I'm sure you have a few, and I welcome them, and going to ask that perhaps you think about maybe, allowing or supporting your chief in participating in this discussion, and hopefully one of you will be doing the same with chiefs on the east side, and looking for some experienced residents that may want to participate as well. But our primary goal is to gather information, present it so that everyone can make an informed decision moving forward.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So your next step pretty much is to form this task force to get all the particulars and begin the discussion, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Questions? I'll start with Councilmember Barnwell.
Yeah, a couple. Thanks for doing this, by the way. The first question that comes to mind, if our mill rate is 1.3, I think you said, and if you don't expect that to increase, and yet we're getting professionals, i.e. paid borough paramedics, I would assume, how is it that our mill rate doesn't increase if we're on the low end of the boroughs?
Your mill rate is 2.49.
Oh, okay. So we're at 2.49.
Yes.
Do you expect that mill rate to be what when we're all said and done?
In that range, or perhaps a bit higher. I don't have that final number, so I don't want to leave something on the table. Somewhere between 2.49 and 2.86 without efficiencies. So again, remember, that's all the current employees. That's 3 or 4 admin folks. CES, which serves 26,000, has 1 admin. I mean, there are efficiencies that will occur. My proposal is that we would keep who we have until they choose to move on. I think threatening by taking jobs as we're putting things together here is probably not the right way to go, which is why I also propose in the city of Soldotna, we gave up our logo. This Soldotna Fire Department no longer exists. I think people should keep their logo and their local history. People are very proud of that. And I can tell you that all of these communities on the east side are very proud of whose father started this particular station and who was involved through the years. There's no reason people should give up their logo. I think it should be the Seward Fire Department, a member of Eastern Peninsula Emergency Services. So That's the number that we have, and that's an effective mill rate for you all, which means that's what you're actually paying. Part of this is the Cooper Landing mill rate was 3.95, which would have essentially doubled their taxes, but that's also with an admin and a chief. That position is in here right now. That's not a position that we would need going forward. So I'm just being completely transparent about the current costs that are either existing or were proposed recently. That doesn't mean it's what it would look like when the rubber hits the road.
Sorry, just one more. So you kind of answered my Cooper Landing question, but what happens with Moose Pass?
That's a question I'd like to answer. We have a functioning department in Hope, Moose Pass. You guys help me if I forget one. In Hope, Moose Pass, Cooper Landing, Lowell Point, Seward, and Bear Creek. We'd have to talk about that. I think we need an asset there. I think we need apparatus there. We'll have to talk about how staff is distributed throughout the system. But we'd also be sharing the cost of training, we'd be sharing the cost of apparatus, we'd be sharing the cost of maintenance. I'm actually evaluating a borough-wide emergency services maintenance system so that we have centralized with trained, well-equipped mechanics that would simply be a fee-for-service for the individual stations. So we're looking at system-wide efficiencies with regional fire services.
Okay, other questions? Councilmember Finch.
How would the funds be dispersed between everybody if you were to put them as a whole? Would they change what they're getting as far as decrease or increase?
Well, it depends. So you would have one chief that's over the Eastern Peninsula Emergency Services. That would be the leadership. You'd likely have a deputy chief. You'd likely have an ops person that's maybe currently a chief in one of the stations. You likely, if you think about how people are working on various schedules that are going to stations like Cooper Landing from somewhere else, I don't want to answer that that without the professionals deciding what that staffing would look like. But you're also going to be as or more dependent on a healthy volunteer force, which in our case, like CES, works on a stipend. It doesn't become a borough employee, it becomes a volunteer with a stipend structure.
I've got two more questions. You say you respond, and I know you guys do respond a lot to Anchorage and everybody coming down. Are they charged for their responses?
Well, they're charged through their ambulance fees and things like that.
Okay. And since being on council, this is probably the fourth time I've heard wanting to increase the mill rate. And I've heard it from people
I don't
that-
think you've heard that.
Won't you just talk about possibly messing with the mill rate?
No, I talked about what your mill rate is, and I gave you an assumption with all in. So
Possibly.
everything as it exists today would be 2.86. Right now, you're paying 2.49.
Or higher? I remember you said that.
No, I said 2.49 is what you're paying. Our assumption right now is if all in, so that includes the chief in Cooper Landing, that we likely would not need if we were moving to an Eastern Peninsula Emergency Services. The worst case that I can see right now is 2.86 if you left all of those leadership positions in the system that you don't need.
Because my concern is, every time I turn around, I keep hearing people wanting to increase the mill rate. And I know so many people that can barely afford their mill rate and property taxes, but we're driving people out of Seward because our cost of living is getting so high. The mill rate is, any increase I won't vote for.
Right. So I just reduced the mill rate in the borough by 0.2%. First balanced budget in 10 years. I think there's a lot more room for reductions on our side. The borough has not been efficiently operated in a while. So if you hear people talking about increasing mill rate, you don't hear it from me.
Other questions? So I will be, at a future time, asking if there's somebody from council that's really excited about being on this task force, and we will be hearing more from you as it goes along.
Can I throw one more thing in there,
Sure.
Mayor? All of this is also without the bill that's currently working its way through Congress that supports rural firefighters, because that's an issue that's happening all over the western United States particularly. A lot of service areas are being created because of the difficulty of the one-offs. You have all of the costs without any of the efficiencies. So again, that was my worst case at today's, what we know today, when I was being as, I don't want to make it sound like I'm selling a used car with an unbelievable price. I want to make sure that we have all of the data in front of us, so I think that's the most important. And I don't know, it should be the most excited council member, maybe it should be the least excited council member that serves.
Thank you for coming. This was at my suggestion because I've been hearing about this and we don't know about this. So this is the first time and most of us have heard anything about this. So it's going to take some time to, trickle through and all that. But thank you. Are you driving back tonight?
Yes.
Be careful.
No, I'm not going to hurry, I'm going to hang out.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask, do we need a 5-minute break before we move on? Okay, we'll take a 5-minute break. We'll be back at, let's say 2 minutes after 8, by that clock.
No.
Okay, we're moving into this thing.
Okay.
Ready?
Thank you. We'll resume the meeting. It is 8:04. Unless I'm horribly wrong once again, our next item will be unfinished business B, resolutions. And this would take us to Resolution 2023-112, which, well, first of all, Madam Clerk, would you please read it in?
Yes. Resolution 2023-112, scheduling a special election to repeal Resolution 2023-88 and Resolution 2023-89 to be held Tuesday, November 28, 2023. This resolution failed on September 25, 2023, and a reconsideration was submitted to the city clerk by Councilmember Barnwell on September 26, 2023. A two-third vote is required to get the resolution back on the floor.
Okay, thank you. And so what we already have a motion on the floor from the previous meeting, but it has been called for reconsideration. And so what we would need now is a motion to reconsider Resolution 2023-112 and a second, so we can begin discussion.
I move to reconsider Resolution 2023-112.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. So now what we can do is discuss or talk about the reconsideration, not exactly the resolution. And I'm going to ask administration to speak on this first, if we could.
Great. So administration recommends that you reconsider this resolution. I was able to speak with the two petition contacts today to kind of come up with a plan moving forward with a special election. And I believe that would be discussed post reconsideration. So in order to have that discussion with the council, I would recommend you reconsider.
Okay, thank you. And so now we can just discuss reconsideration, not the resolution. Councilmember Wells.
Thank you. To administration, please. Can you explain who?
So we met with the petition contacts, which is Phil Kaluza and Daryl Schaefermeyer, who are the lead petitioners on the referendum.
Followers.
And can you make it clear for citizens so they know that the council is not pushing to put this back on a ballot, but because the petitioners...
So this resolution 2023-112 is in response to a petition that requested we repeal resolutions 2023-88 and resolution 2023-89. And those two resolutions were what put the ballot initiatives on the October 3rd ballot. So the petition was submitted, and the timeline with the petition submission and the regulations and the printing didn't allow for them to be on the same ballot. So the timing of it ended up being a little weird coming after the election already happened. So we were able to meet with those petitioners today. And so this isn't in any way, shape, or form affecting the October 3rd results or the results of the election. It's just reevaluating, or it's just responding to the petition that was put out in response to the request to repeal previous resolutions.
So that's about as clear as it can be stated, actually. This is rather unprecedented. Councilmember.
I just want to point out that I did submit that reconsideration because we were in legally we had to reconsider this. At this point, we have to bring this back up, and it wasn't anything to do with the vote or that. It's just that we had a legal obligation to attend to this.
Right. So once again, the recommendation is we're just voting at this point on reconsidering so we can discuss the actual action that we're going to take. And the recommendation is to vote yes to reconsider. Is that clear? Any other questions? I think the public should understand. Okay, I think, hopefully, we're ready, Madam Clerk, to vote on the reconsideration of Resolution 112.
Okay, voting on the reconsideration of Resolution 2023-112. Calhoun,
Yes.
Wells,
Yes.
Barnwell,
Yes.
Finch,
Yes.
Osenga,
Yes.
and Mayor McClure.
Yes.
Okay, it has been reconsidered, voted to reconsider, so it is now for discussion on Resolution 2023-112.
On the actual resolution. And so I'll bring that over again to administration just to see what you got to say.
So as I mentioned, I had a meeting with the two petition sponsors, Mr. Kaluza and Mr. Schaefermeyer. And after that meeting, we came to, the administration came to a recommendation, which would be to repeal the original resolutions 2023-88 and 2023-89. We agreed this is the best way to move forward by repealing these two resolutions. Nothing about the October 3rd results are changed. I want to reiterate that. And we're able to avoid a special election, and there's no substantial changes at all. And the big thing is too that we aren't able to bring a substantially similar resolution to the table for 2 years. So it is in effect becoming the same outcome that the petition election would have. I'm also going to toss it to Sam, the attorney, to see if he has anything to add, because like I said, and like we all can probably understand, it's a bit of a confusing topic, but I do want to reiterate that nothing about the October 3rd election would be changed and nothing would be brought again to ballot with this repeal.
Sure. Yeah, thank you. And it's confusing, and I'm going to try to the code, I think, answers much of what we're looking at in a way that might make it easier. It's 415.050. And the first part is in A, and it says, unless the ordinance or resolution is repealed by the council, when a petition seeks a referendum vote, the clerk shall submit the matter to the voters. It goes on from there. But, so, two options when a successful petition, or a petition that checks all the boxes procedurally, has the right number of signatures. There's two options. The council can repeal what repeal is being sought by the petition, can just go ahead and do that and say, sure, we'll just take it off and skip all this, or put it on the ballot. Those are the two options. And so, and then, I mean, that's essentially what it is. Those are what we can do. And so this resolution is written, just the way it's written up, is to put it for a vote. But now, again, having spoken with the sponsors, they're saying, given the unique situation, to avoid a vote that just really doesn't need to happen, which has a cost to the city, just a financial cost, that they would be satisfied with taking the action to repeal it, which is one of the two. Council has two options when a successful petition or a complete valid petition comes forward. Repeal the law that it seeks to repeal, or set it on for an election. So we're discussing whether to choose to repeal. And one other thing I'll add on that is under 415.050D, it says if a majority vote favors the repeal of the matter referred, it is repealed. It's just a procedural twist that I think is worth mentioning, because normally you would think some piece of legislation like a resolution or an ordinance would be just a necessary step practically in order to repeal something, but a majority vote tonight would effectively repeal it.
Okay. So I believe I have a question for the attorney then. Should I make a motion, assuming I will make this motion, to repeal, I'm not doing it this second, but to repeal both 88 and 89, what happens to Resolution 112? Is it just, do we still have to do something with the overreaching resolution that we are just reconsidering? Sorry, it just occurred to me, it's sitting there.
I believe we just fail it.
That is that's a good question. I don't know. I mean, I think, frankly, as long as there's, I think, a record that, a verbal record of what we intend, or you intend to do, I think we can maybe gloss over the not hyper-technical, I'm not being critical. That's a good question, but I mean, I'm not entirely sure. It's a resolution that's being reconsidered, so I mean, you could make a motion to amend it to say repeal.
Okay.
Instead of, I mean, maybe that's one way to acknowledge it.
Okay.
Resolution 2023-112 says,
To repeal resolution. Yes, to repeal resolution, yes.
we're scheduling a special election, but
It was
instead of
election.
scheduling a special election, it would just be repeal and not, and therefore not have to have a special election. So,
Yep.
I'm seeing nods. Okay. Okay.
I think that as long as we're making a sufficient verbal record that we're all kind of understanding where we're
Yes.
going, I think we'll be okay.
Okay. Well, I'll move then to repeal Resolution 2023-88 and Resolution 2023-89. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded, then we can discuss that. And that is the recommendation, because that would take away the need for the special election. And administration has come to a nice agreement with the sponsors of the petition. So this seems like the logical thing to do. We can discuss this now. Let me get Vice Mayor first.
I was just going to ask, what's going on with 112 then?
Well, this is what he was just, we can have further
Yeah.
discussion about that first.
I guess
We're-
that's
I'm
what I
giving-
suggested about that.
Well, okay, let's let Sam speak.
Yeah,
first.
no, I think just amending it, I mean, that's the suggestion I got from over here, and I think that makes sense to me.
To amend 112.
To amend 112.
Just to say to repeal.
To
Not to
repeal
schedule
instead of
it.
to
Yes.
schedule, you're right, exactly, I
Yes.
think you're on the same page
So
there.
that would be an amendment to that.
That's
A
an,
motion to amend.
right. That avoids having to withdraw it or vote against it or anything else. I think amend it makes sense. So the motion would be something along the lines of to amend Resolution 2023-112 to repeal.
Then, unless you have something else, okay, I'll amend my motion then to read. I move to amend Resolution 2023-112 to read, to repeal, to eliminate the special election part, right. So to delete scheduling a special election and have it read, to repeal Resolution 2023-88 and Resolution 2023-89, and then eliminate the rest of it where it said the election would be November 28th. And if the second agrees, okay, so did you get that? And we have it
Got the
written here.
first.
if you want.
Who's the second?
Oh, Councilmember Wells. Okay. This is fairly unprecedented, I think, at least in mine. Did you have something else to add, Sam, or?
No.
Oh, okay. Councilmember Calhoun.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just, kind of just a thought. I guess it would have been good when we first had this come up, had we been told we actually didn't have the right to vote no. And maybe it could have just been an informational item that said that this is what it's going to be on November 28th. As opposed to us having to go through that and then, you know, obviously we would have ended up doing kind of the same thing now that we were doing anyway, but maybe we wouldn't have had to have some of the angst that some people had because we voted down something that later we're told we didn't have the right to vote down.
We could view this as a learning experience. Yes.
Yeah, it's just a statement.
I hear you. Any other discussion, or are we ready to vote on this? Madam Clerk, could you please read my motion again if you could.
Voting to approve Resolution 2020, or voting to amend Resolution 2023-112 to state, to repeal Resolution 2023-88 and Resolution 2023-89.
Thank you. That's what I wanted. Okay.
Barnwell,
Yes.
Finch,
Yeah.
Masenga,
Yes.
Wells,
Yes.
Calhoun,
Yes.
and Mayor McClure.
Yes,
The motion has passed.
thank you. I feel somehow smarter now. If that's even possible. Yes.
Do we now have to vote on the regular resolution?
Yeah, because
that's
we
been
motioned to
amended?
amend.
Because we just amended it.
This was a motion to amend.
Amended
So now we have to vote
on the actual.
the amended resolution.
Yes.
Yes. So,
Sorry.
do we need to discuss that, or can we just vote? We're ready to vote on the amended resolution.
Okay. Voting on Resolution 2023-112 to repeal Resolution 23-88 and Resolution 2023-89. Barnwell,
Yes.
DeMoss, oh, sorry, not here. Calhoun,
Yes.
Osenga.
Yes.
Finch,
Yes.
Wells.
Yes.
And Mayor McClure.
Yes.
That motion has passed.
Okay. Well, that was our last business item tonight. We're going down now to, stop me if I'm wrong, other items, and the first item is to discuss travel to Anchorage for the Alaska Municipal League Conference in December. And I brought this up because it's coming up and they're already talking about getting hotel room reservations and registration and stuff. And I'll state that, it is, I'll be going to the mayor's conference, and I'll give the particulars to the clerk, but I'll be there for a couple of days for the mayor's conference and need a few nights. But we should discuss, and we don't need to definitively state now who's going or what, but if anybody's just hot to go or they want to hear more about it, this is the time right now. Yes, Councilmember Wells.
I would like to go if there's room, but I don't know what the dates are.
Oh,
December 4th through December 8th.
so the actual council conference part would be the 6th through 8th, I think.
Yes.
December 6th through 8th. The mayor's conference start is this 5th and 6th, so I'll be there on the earlier end, but okay. We don't have a budget. I failed to ask the clerk's office how many of us could go. Generally, there's a newly elected officers training part, but we don't really have newly elected council members. I believe Councilmember Kreitz had gone through that before, but if not, we can check with her. But other council members, are you interested? And you could just, you don't have to sign on the, in line right now. Councilmember.
I went last year, and I really enjoyed it, and I would definitely go again if I had the opportunity, but I went last year, so I will take a back seat to anybody, if we don't have the money or the
Yeah,
position.
see, I don't know how many we can send, I should have found that out. But if you're interested, you don't really need to say now, you could contact the clerk or myself. And yes.
Well, I think
Councilmember
we
Calhoun.
sent 2 last year. Councilmember Barnwell and myself went,
Right,
and you went to the mayor's conference.
Right.
And
Mayor McClure, I believe it was said that 3 could go.
Okay, 3 including myself, or?
3, any 3.
Okay, because I need to, so, there's 2.
I will not be going.
Not wanting to go. Were you interested? Okay.
not this year.
And I'm seeing no's, so it looks like right now,
Sure, that one.
and we should talk to Councilmember, newly elected Councilmember Kreitz. So we'll reach out to her too. But for now, we've got Wells and Barnwell and myself, okay? And we'll talk about where to stay and all those things at the clerk's office. Anything else on this? Okay. And the other discussion item is to discuss rescheduling the council retreat. Remember back when it was going to be in November and Councilmember Wells couldn't make it, and then we moved it to December 2nd, and now others can't make it. So I'm just picking on you tonight. So, now we're thinking in January sometime. Yes, Councilor Wilson.
I won't be here.
Yeah, well, we know that. What I would suggest, if it's not too much trouble, is look at your calendars and maybe, because this is going through the city manager's office, originally would Jason or you be the contact, and we could just send the dates we're available to?
We could also send out a poll if you guys are interested in that. We
wanna
can
do
send a
that?
poll to the counselors and then you can just go in and click what times work for you.
That would be so good.
Great, I'll send that out tomorrow.
Could you do that?
Mhm.
And, because, I mean, I can't think January yet. We know he's gonna be on some hunting trip, so, you know, it's just.
No, I'm happy to do that and I appreciate you guys rescheduling since I was unable to attend the December 2nd.
And just for the public, we had we try to do this annually, where rarely can all of us sit around and just talk about stuff in general and share a lunch, but because of the Open Meetings Act, but in a retreat format, which is publicly noticed, we can. And it's just a chance to get to know each other. You know, what exciting thing is there about you that you've never told anyone before, that kind of thing. But it's not just that, you know, it's informational. We get some coaching on stuff, and it's a really good thing. So we've done this pretty much annual. It's just hard to get everybody together on the same time and then have a place and all that. So that's what we're talking about.
Great.
Okay. And the last item, and I believe I'm going to, finally, you've been sitting here a long time, is discuss city parking lots. And administration, do you want to say something about it? We have a laydown of that.
Yeah, so you have a laydown in front of you about Seward parking enforcement, and I know that Tyler Mallory of the Parks and Rec Department has been working really hard on that, so I want to invite him up here for a presentation on all of the research and ideas he's come up with.
Oh, hello.
Thank you.
Good to see you guys again. I have a PowerPoint. Clicker. I have a PowerPoint presentation here. You guys have it in front of you too. Please interrupt me and ask questions during. I don't want you guys to just sit and hold them till the end, because otherwise I think there'll be a lot of questions. So, yeah, so sewer parking enforcement, kind of where we're at and where I see needs or ways we can improve for our parking in the harbor. So the plan is discuss the current parking system and the lots we have, look at our current revenue, what potential revenue could be under our current pricing, and then if we did adjust pricing, discuss up safety, which is a solution I found that I think could help us, and then also future plans and goals for Seward parking. So our current paid lots are all in the harbor. We have the north 72-hour lot, which has 2 pay stations in it. We have the south 72, which has 2. Purple, which is our south launch lot. It's pretty small, and then the green Uplands parking lot, which is a lot of boat and trailers, and then the northeast lot, which is also boat and trailers. And we have the center lot, which is right in front of the KFT building, which is currently free for up to 2 hours parking in the harbor. We use T2 parking systems. Those are all the kiosks you see out there. They offer mobile pay, so people can pay on phone. They scan, there's a QR code or a text number, or they can also use their credit card. They also take cash payments, but we don't have that enabled. We don't have cash boxes out there. So it's just credit card or by phone. Current parking capacity. So total we have 675 paid parking spaces between all of those lots. And then we have 94 in the center lot, which are free. Current rate is $10 per day in any of those lots. There is no 0 to 4 hour parking. There is no short term. There is nothing. It's $10. If you park there for an hour or you park there for 24 hours, it's $10. We also sell annual passes. We sell them for $50 to slip owners, and then also $50 to any harbor employees, so anyone who works down on the docks or at the boat launches or anything like that. And then we also have an annual pass for anyone else for $100. So revenue, so 2022, our revenue was $396,000, $171,025 through the end of the year. And our season is May 1st through September 30th, 2023 through August 31st, so this doesn't include September numbers, is $221,727,017, but we didn't start until June 1st this year. Yes.
In 2022, did we have city employees going around and checking?
Did we have any?
We didn't have any parking enforcement.
Enforcement.
We did have some city employees.
Okay. But
it wasn't consistent.
Just
Yeah.
background.
And we've had zero enforcement in 2023 as well. And we started a month late as well this year, so we missed out on all of May. So according to the T2 system has a really cool online portal that I can go in. So according to that, our average paid occupancy is 75% in the North 72, 68% South 72, 45% in the Northeast, and 28% in the Upland/boat launch. I kind of combine those because they're right next to each other. And I think if anyone drives through the harbor, especially in July and August, they know those numbers are not accurate. Those lots are full every single day, especially the North and South 72. I don't think those numbers are very, so that's our paid occupancy, meaning that there's a loss there. So a little bit about, I guess, Homer, since they're a comparable community. I called and talked to their harbor master. They implemented up safety with T2, which is one of the things that I'm going to show you guys in a minute. Their harbor master, who's the one who handles their parking, it's under the harbor master's office. He says that their estimated compliance is 95%. They have about 200 spots, he says, but when I look at their map, it looks like a lot more, but maybe I misheard. They use Alpar, which is automatic license plate reader, which comes with up safety, and then AK plate, which we have access to. That gives us the ability, as a government entity, to type in a license plate, and we can look up just basic information, so address and name of the person who owns that car. So that the citations go to the person rather than, yes.
I feel terrible interrupting.
No,
like
you're
that.
good.
So, as we know, that's not my style, but, you just said, the license plate goes to the person registered in the
Yes.
car, right? But I would bet there's a large percentage of those that are rental cars.
Yes.
So how does that process work?
Yes, so that's something I'm still trying to find a solution to. I know that when you sign a rental car agreement, if part of the agreement is if you get a parking ticket, it's to you. And so that might be if it's a rental car, we send the citation to the rental car company and with the date, and then they can charge that person after and pay us the fine. I have to do a little bit more research on that. I'm not, but that's my best guess at how that would work. Yeah.
May I ask one more
Yes.
question, Mayor? Have you spoken with a rental car company yet about
Not
how
yet.
this works? Okay,
Not
but
yet.
you will?
I will, yes,
Okay,
but I
thank
have
you.
not yet, so.
All right, thank you.
And then, and then one of the other big things was appeals and kind of how that works. So that was one of my concerns, is like, how much time does it take up with people appealing citations? And Homer's harbor master said they have written 600 tickets through August 1. They only had 12 appeals in that time, and only one of them, they have it built into their city code where it goes through the informal process, which I'll talk about in a minute, and then it elevates to the city manager as a formal process, and they've had one go to that level. So it hasn't taken a ton of their time, and I'll talk about why and the way up safety works in a minute. So price change recommendations and just kind of what I'm looking at. So when we look at comparable cities that have parking for the harbor, Homer and Whittier are two of our biggest ones. Homer and Whittier both have dirt lots. Whittier is $10 a day, 15 with a trailer. You have to pay to get through the tunnel. And then they charge $800 for a seasonal pass. They charge a lot more. Homer is $10 a day in all their lots. Their lots are dirt lots. They're not paved, and they're definitely more kind of geared towards boat, is what I'm seeing. So we're at the same rate as them. However, every single one of our lots outside of Uplands is paved and lined. And I think they're within walking distance pretty well of all the docks and all the downtown shops. And so my recommendation is twofold. One is to add in short-term parking rather than charging $10 every single time. Add an option of 0 to 4 hours. So if people want to go down and have dinner or go shopping in the harbor, they can pay $5 for 0 to 4 hours. And then 4 to 10, I think 12 might be a better option. That for like half-day tours and charters, that's still $10. And then the 24-hour parking. So if you're parking there for a full day or overnight, it's $15. Yes.
Thank you. So as a former charter boat operator for 16 years here, deckhands are trying to make as much money as they possibly can, and they don't get paid a lot. Most of them buy beaters with heaters to get in back and forth town, because as we know, there's no housing, so they're clear out wherever they can find a place. And I wouldn't want to, when you said raise the cost of the annual fee, a large portion of those folks that are parking down by KDOC, those are employees.
Yeah.
And they're seasonal workers, they are not making a ton of money. And to, ask them to go from $50 to $100, is that what you said?
That's one of the recommendations,
One of the
yes.
recommendations.
Is annual passes sold at 100 rather than 50.
Right.
Yep.
And so is there a provision to think about for actual employees?
Yeah, well, that's what so the annual passes are currently 50 for employees or slip owners. My recommendation is 100 for slip owners or employees, and then 150 for anyone else. So raising all of it up. That's just based on, again, looking at what other places, like Whittier's $800 a year for their parking. And so, and it's been 50 for a while, and this is just recommendations based on what I saw, so.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then, the rest are $15 a day for price. Yes, sorry.
Got one more.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm just trying to fathom, Councilman Wells is saying, people down there trying to make a living, earn a living, and we're charging them to locals to park somewhere. I have a hard time, I've always had a hard time with that. Now we're wanting to double it.
So here would be, I guess, my counter to we're charging locals to park is we're also maintaining these lots, right? And they're well paved, they're lined, they're nice. And so if we are not charging people for parking or enforcing parking, then we have no way to generate revenue to make these lots look like this and have this stuff, so.
Well, I would completely disagree with the Upland parking. That was horrendous.
No, Upland is bad, I agree with that, so.
I don't know how many broken trailers I seen go in there, and guys are yelling, I am not paying to park here, because if the city broke my trailer.
I have recommendations for that too. My plan is
Yeah, we got a paving company in town right now.
My plan is to hopefully look at paving Uplands as well, but the rest of our lots, yeah.
Let me just point out, this isn't something that's cut and dry. This will come back to us in
Yeah.
some form, so we don't need to, micromanage.
That's
Vice Mayor.
one question.
Yeah.
And so for the center parking lot, you're saying, I mean, according to this, it's
Yeah.
4 to 10 hours, $5 for 0 to 4 hours for dinner or shopping. What about people that are going to the bars?
I would suggest, I mean, if they're going to the bars and drinking, I would suggest that they pay for an overnight
So
parking.
it'd be an overnight, is what you're saying.
Yeah, my suggestion is they would pay for a 10 to 12 rather than a.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, no, I
I
get
see
it.
you're making light of it, but it's actually,
No, I understand.
it would be a concern is
Yeah.
that you have, okay, so I'm just trying to figure that out. Okay, thank you.
Okay, sorry, and then the rest remain $15 a day, and then the fine would be $25 a day in city code. And that's something that we would kind of have to look at as well. So pricing comparison estimates, and these are rough estimates, based on just kind of, I threw out some numbers that I think are achievable. So if it was $10 a day, north and south lot at 80% capacity all summer, northeast at 50, and then uplands and south launch at 25, plus slip holder annual, which that number was our number in 2022 of how much we made from slip holder / annual passes. It was $468,897 or $897.21. If we changed it to the recommendation I had earlier with the same numbers, I did my best guesses at what 0 to 4 and 4 to 10 would look like. That raises the revenue to $754,715.21. Yes.
Were the slip owners being charged with their slip fees?
That's the way.
So
I
that's a
recommend.
realistic.
Yes.
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 Just checking.
Yep. So equipment, up safety, as a parking enforcement system, so it links with our current T2 kiosks, so we don't have to change anything as far as those go. We purchase the software and equipment from them, which is a phone and a tablet, or a tablet with a little printer that goes on it and a big hard case so that it's protected from weather and drops and everything like that. And basically the way the system would work is if we hired parking staff, which is another issue, I know that, they would be able to go and use the license plate reader, scan the license plate. It would tell them if that car is allowed to be parked there, if they bought a pass, or if they're an annual slip holder, or anything like that, how long they're supposed to be there. And if they are, they move on. If they're not, then they can take enforcement action on it. And so it makes it easy and kind of foolproof that we're not having issues with having to look at the window stickers and make sure it's exactly right or anything like that. And then it comes with a built-in appeal system, and so if someone was to get a citation, they could, there's a link on there, they can go, they can appeal it, whether it's that you guys typed in the license plate wrong, I was allowed to park here, it was an emergency, whatever it is, they can put in their justification. When they go in there and look at that, every ticket would have pictures attached to it on that online portal of the car parked where it was, so that, hey, yeah, this is your car, this is the license plate, this is everything like that. And then those appeals would be reviewed by the department designee and then decided upon from there. So it would make it all streamlined within the T2 and the UpSafety system, rather than kind of right now where we write paper citations and it gets a little bit weird. So.
There's a question, Councilman?
Just think, could the parking permits be sold to the businesses and let them hand it out to their staff?
That is an option within UpSafety that we talked about. And that's whether the business want to do that. My recommendation was to tie them to the person rather than the car. So if I bought one, I could put that window hanger in any car I wanted, rather than I only have it for one car, because I think that can get frustrating. There is a bit of ability within UpSafety that we talked about, where basically I could say the Harbor 360 wanted to buy 40 parking passes a day for their employees. They could pay whatever a fee for the whole year is, and then they would have access to basically say this is the license plate, and they would have a back-end access to UpSafety and say these are the license plate that we're saying are working today. And so they would have the ability, rather than their employees having to pay for it, they could pay for the parking passes and then assign them to their employees each day, so they could move them around based on which employees are working. So yeah, all citations, like I said, have photos in the system. UpSafety also uses GPS tire stem location, so we will not chalk cars, we will not touch cars. That is not something we're gonna do or are interested in. So basically, you take photos of the tires at GPS stems, where the stem is, the tire stem is, it GPS locates it on a clock wheel, and you do that to all four. And so if someone's like, well, I moved and I came back, well, your tire stems, all four were in the exact same place, so it's unlikely that you actually moved. That'd be pretty rare. But we wouldn't mark them, we wouldn't chalk anything, there'd be none of that, so we wouldn't be messing with anyone's cars or touching anyone's cars, because I don't want my car messed with either. So, and then as far as payments, so all payments are processed within the UpSafety website, and so they would process them, and then we would tie in with finance, and they take a $3 credit card transaction fee from the $25 citation, and so that's part of the cost there. As far as cost goes, it's 24/7 support, training, all the equipment, as well as the back-end website customization, so we get to customize that website with what it looks like and things like that, based on what our needs are. Comes with 2 of the printers and the cell phones, that's what they are. Links with Alpar and all our T2 pay stations, and it's total 3-year cost of $37,000. So it's $17,000 or $18,000 almost upfront, just because we're buying that hardware, and then it's a subscription after that of about $10,000 a year to have the back-end customization and things like that. Yeah, like I said, permit passes are a little bit weird. We have the option of doing the businesses buy them. My recommendation as far as permits go, I talking with Homer and everyone else, is it gets really weird. Because they're linked to cars, they're not linked to people, and so I think the best option for us is to sell those in-house as a window hanger. We buy window hangers, you can buy them from Parks and Rec through the rec desk, you can buy them at the harbor, wherever, and if you have if the window hanger's in the car's fine, it can park there all you want, so there's no touching that car, so, and again, it's not linked to a certain license plate, so. Parking passes, this is just a recommendation, or can be used in anything but the center lot. And this is just, the center lot was kind of designated for a while as it was free, and it was designed to generate business because it's right in the center. And it was designed to generate business for 0 to 2 hours, so people could go have dinner or go shopping or things like that. And if you drive now, and I get it because it's right there, but oftentimes, most of the people parked there are tour boat captains and fishing charters and things like that, in the same spots every day because they get there at 4 a.m, their first one's there. And so, making that just a short-term parking lot for 0 to 4, 4 to 10, for customers might be an option, and then the parking passes for the window hangers for slip owners be used in any of the other lots. Fine schedule, parking violation, $25 a day. If they don't pay for 30 days, it goes to 50, unless obviously if there's mitigating circumstances there and they call and we have a conversation, we can waive that. 60 days is 75, and then 90 days is 100. UpSafety does have a collection agency that's certified through all of the federal laws regarding collections, that they can take over at that point for us and go after unpaid fines for a fee. They couldn't give me a cost on what that would look like because it depends on how many tickets we're writing and things like that, but that is an option for us to partner with them. I'm not interested in towing cars, I'm not interested in booting cars, any of that. That's not something we're interested in doing. If it's someone we've contacted them, we've written them a ticket every day, and they're like, nope, I'm not gonna pay, then that's a separate conversation, but if someone parks there, I'm not interested in booting their car and turning into a fight. That's not what we're trying to do here. Properly implementing these, I think we would need to amend our code a little bit. Based on my reading, it says that I believe the city manager has ability to designate parking, but I think based on what Homer did, they put the fee schedule in their city code, and they also put the appeal process in their city code so that it's all there in writing, and then also pay. And I know this is a problem for everyone, but Homer's paying $23 an hour for their employees, and ours start at 16 or 17, I believe. I don't remember if they're 2 or 1. 17, they're step 2? Okay. So they start much lower, and while I know finding employees is hard for everyone, it's pretty hard to compete with 19, 20-year-old kids who we're trying to get. That's ultimately who we're going to be getting for these jobs more often than not, coming back from college and telling them, hey, you can make $16 for us, or you can make $20 at the ice cream shop. They're going to go to the ice cream shop and make $20 an hour because they don't get yelled at there. So as far as cost for salaries, so 4 employees at $22 an hour, it was $84,480 for salaries, and that includes 1 week of training and then the whole season. It was a 4-10 work schedule. You have 2 per day, so one would start at 6, one would start at 9. It would be most of the day covered, and it would give us people down there every day. The goal with this, I'm not interested in writing a bunch of tickets. That's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to increase compliance, and hopefully by having that visible enforcement, like we talked about with Homer, where they went up to 95% compliance based on his estimates. That's what we're trying to do, is get people to voluntarily comply with the parking. It in turn allows us to do things like generate money so that we can pave the Uplands parking lot and make it a nicer lot, line it, and so that we're not having to resurface those all the time. It also puts city employees in the harbor, which is a nice thing to have, where they're down there walking around, they're visible, they can direct people where they need to go. I know it wasn't as much this year, but in the past, theft in the north and south 72-hour lots has been an issue in the past, where people were breaking in to unlock cars, and having employees down there would hopefully be a visual deterrent for that as well. And yeah, the reality is, right, the tickets we write aren't gonna cover the cost of hiring employees. Homer wrote 600. I mean, if we wrote 1,000 tickets, it's $25,000 for the city. So it's not, the tickets themselves are not making a bunch of money. Rather, it's the compliance that we would gain by having people down there working. And yeah, like I said, our goals are to make that place nice. We relined them this year, or last year and this year. I want to pave the Uplands parking lot. I want to increase patrols down there and parking down there, and make it a nice place for our businesses, because it's important when people come here and are paying $600 to go on a fishing charter, that they have a nice place to park, and it looks nice, and they know their car is going to be taken care of. And yeah, obviously parking can be contentious. I get that. It's a contentious thing. People don't like paying parking tickets, and I understand that. And so our goal would be to go down early to all these businesses in the harbor and these boats and say, hey, we're selling these passes, we'll sell them to you right now, we'll have a computer, and make it as easy for them to get what they need, rather than having to take time out of their day to go find us at Parks and Rec or do anything like that. Just go down there and offer those resources and that ability for them to do it. And then also, just as Parks and Rec is handling this, we've had these conversations about a community center in the past, and I know that, and also just reality of playgrounds and park improvement things that we're trying to do in Parks and Rec, is taking a certain percentage of that annual income from parking and using it to improve our playgrounds, improve our trails, improve our winter maintenance, and hopefully eventually a community center where we would help offset that cost. That was kind of one of the big issues with it, of offsetting the annual cost. So that's just one of the other things that I thought about, so, yes?
This presupposes that we can find people to work.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
And even at 22 an hour, if we go to the expense of getting the system and educating people, you're gonna have to pay, but we cannot find anyone to work. I guess that's just a chance
Nope.
we would be taking, right?
Yeah, I can't make promises. I'm pretty plugged in with the younger, I work with teenagers a lot, and I know the kids who come back for college, and while I can't make any promises, I feel like I have a little bit of sway there where I might be able to swing a few of them to come work for us, but, yeah, no, it is definitely presupposing that we find these employees to come work for us, and we might not, so.
What can happen here is we could make a recommendation to administration. We could go a couple of directions. We could suggest a work session where we can just go through the fine tuning of this, or we could suggest bringing back a package that we could vote on. Would it be there are a lot of factors here. There's code changes, and then there's, so what do you think? Yes, Councilmember Wells, I'll start with you.
I wouldn't mind a work session. I'd be okay with that.
Councilmember Calhoun?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I think this is one of those things that would almost require something like that, because I have a lot of questions and thoughts, but I'm not going to get into the weeds tonight because there's no reason to. And if we wait until they just bring us back a resolution, we're not going to be able to get into those weeds. So I think a work session would be great.
That sounds like a good idea. Councilmember Finch?
Yeah, I'd be all for a work session, because last thing I want to see is Seward pricing the locals that are living here.
So are we in some agreement here to direct administration to work with Parks and Rec to schedule a work session on this topic at some point soon-ish?
Will do.
Okay.
Yep.
Is that, Councilmember Berman?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks for all the work. This is a long time coming, we really need this. I spent a lot of time down at the harbor, and we need some structure down there.
Yes.
And we need the cash, so thanks for doing that. And when are you gonna do camping? Campground, you
We're working on that too, so that's another project, so.
No, this was very well thought out, and I remember the last time a suggestion was brought to us about something about parking, we pretty well rejected it totally. It had to do with gating, if you recall.
And a bunch of money.
Well, and the money too. So this is something to work with, and I think it'll be well-attended and good work sessions. So, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, so that brings us down to citizen comments. We've finished all the work of the evening. And in this segment, there's no sign-in, and you are limited to 5 minutes if you choose to use the whole 5 minutes per speaker. And all you do is raise your hand and come on up, and it's the usual name and inside or outside. Go ahead.
Hello, my name's Albie Tatum. I reside outside of the city limits. So I am a volunteer with SVAC, but I'm here as a citizen of the area and borough taxpayer and not representing SVAC in any way. SVAC is an independent organization who has been in place serving this area for 70 years. It is a completely volunteer organization who agrees to cover primary 911 advanced life support transport out to mile 36 and at times beyond. SVAC is 100% independent from any of the fire departments that they interact with. The volunteers also own all of the local EMS infrastructure, including the building, all of the ambulances, and all of the life-saving equipment that goes along with it. This project, or proposed project, would be starting from zero. SVAC currently has well over 300 years of varied advanced experience with the volunteer crew, who drop everything at a drop of the tones, day or night, 365 days of the year, to go out and serve our community. While they may not be considered professionals by some people because they are volunteers, as their training officer, I can assure you that we train and provide the best service to this community and beyond. SVAC volunteers staff a fully licensed by the state of Alaska advanced life support ambulance 365 days of the year, 24/7, and oftentimes answer multiple calls for service at the same time. For example, during the first 2 weekends of October, it's supposed to be the slow time of year, we have had 2 separate incidents where we have had all 3 of our ambulances out on medical calls within our community. This is possible because of the volunteers that are dedicated to this community. Approximately 90% of the calls for service are medical in nature, which are served with the assistance of the fire departments, but the primary responsibility of transport and patient care is on SVAC. Since SVAC is fully independent, we get a minuscule pittance of funding from the city, but essentially SVAC provides this service to this area and the surrounding areas, with all of the residents and all of the visitors at essentially no cost or tax impact to the entire area. In an article by KDLL in July of 2023, when the Cooper Landing area balked at the significant increase in mill rate to arrange a Cooper Landing service area, there were 3 options that were discussed. I'm going to read from that article. The mayor had put forth 3 options: do nothing, form a Cooper Landing emergency service area at this time, or let the mayor work on putting together an Eastern Kenai Peninsula emergency service area, Eklund said. Machichi is now beginning the work on that 3rd option, a service area that would encompass the whole Eastern Peninsula, including Cooper Landing, Moose Pass, Bear Creek, Seward, Lowell Point, and Hope. From an efficiency perspective, he said that's the only way to have a low mill rate and quality services. And this is in quotations. We have a non-existent industrial taxpayers in many of these areas. We have very limited commercial, and that makes it very difficult and puts all of the costs on the backs of the individual residents and taxpayers, Machichi said. You add Seward into this, 2,600 people, heavy industrial bays, lots of commercial, and you start to look at what it would take to have an efficient, sustainable model, and suddenly you can bring that mill rate down significantly and start enjoying the scale that comes along with that economy. This translates to me that the Eastern Kenai Peninsula in its entirety wants to use our population and tax base to fund the entire area's emergency services. As a taxpayer of the borough who, yes, had a slight decrease in overall mill rate, but also saw an astronomical increase in my overall property value with little overall property improvements, which many of the other borough residents have indicated that they saw, a similar situation that led to overall an increase in tax liability for the residents of the borough. They essentially want our area to pay for something that overall is already being provided to our area with little overall cost from the EMS perspective, which makes up a majority of the calls for service. This at first glance doesn't make any sense to me. As a second-generation SVAC member, I'm offended that neither the mayor or Representative Eklund have attempted in any way to reach out to SVAC to discuss this plan, when in my opinion, SVAC has a very large table or seat at this potential table. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing? Tim, come on.
Tim McDonald, City Limits. I want to say one thing first, that when I said we've outgrown our volunteer city government, it doesn't have anything to do with our volunteer culture. You know, we live by volunteers, whether it's the fire department, rescue, whatever, it's part of our fabric. The point is we have too complicated a government. We're not properly represented, and we need accountability, and that's why the volunteer government is no longer viable. And I'll give you an example. Okay, how many people do you think on Nash Road vote or are allowed to vote in city elections? Well, there used to be 3. There was Mrs. Schaefer, Mr. Anderson, and myself. I don't believe either of them vote, so I am the only person out of 400 odd people on Nash Road that is allowed to vote in the city of Seward. They are just the same as me. They shop at the grocery stores, their kids go to Seward schools, blah, 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 on and on. They're no different from you and are. They are de facto citizens of Seward. And there's a lot of pushback from people outside of Seward don't want to join the city, but it's because they're afraid of you. They're afraid of your policies. They're afraid of the intrusiveness. And that's why it has to be done, because those people will allow us to streamline our government and have a professional government. We outgrew this form of government decades ago, and all we do is fight, and nobody does what we think they're supposed to. I could go on and on. I don't want to point any fingers, but it just doesn't work. You know, you're not doing the will of the people, because the people can't vote. And they have to be able to vote, and we need people that are dedicated to their job 8 hours a day, 48 hours a week, whatever it takes. We don't need volunteers that have another job, and this is a side thing that they're doing for status, or they're doing so that they can help their own business, or they can help their friend, or anything else like this. And a lot of that happens. We all know it is, and a lot of it is extremely financially detrimental to the city of Seward. So I mean, like I said, nobody can vote on Nash Road except me. Nobody does. There's two others that could vote. Andy lives mostly in Anchorage, and I believe Mrs. Schaefer does now too. Nobody's been there all summer. So it's a ridiculous situation, and it's not a representative government. It's not a democratic government, and it's up to you guys to change it. It's not up to us to do it. It's up to you guys to do it. You have to realize the error and fix it. That's why we got you there. I mean, do we have to get a petition with 1,000 signatures on it telling you we want to put it to a vote? I mean, you know, we need education, we need to look forward, and Seward has a great opportunity to thrive if we do this. If we do the way we are now, you're not going to do alternative energy. You're not going to do all kinds of things that the people want and that are best for the city of Seward. We should have done alternative energy 20, 30 years ago. And now we're behind the 8 ball, and we can't afford it, we can't afford it. You know, and you're trying to sell our utility out from us. We have no security whatsoever as citizens of Seward, because we can't trust you guys. You know, and it's not your fault, it's the system. We need to change the system. We need more voters. This is America, this is not Russia. So let's get it right, folks. And somebody get on it, or it's going to get changed for you. And that's why I says, okay, go ahead and do it. That's a stupid answer. You know, you guys are responsible for this. Nobody should have to make you do it. Everybody can see it. Everybody knows it. And, you know, we need control over our government. Right now, our government is controlling us. And that's not how it's set up. So, I mean, this last vote on the utility, I mean, that's the whole thing is. Everybody's trying to make a square peg fit into a round hole. You know, let's work together. And Brad, for all his idiosyncrasies, had something there. You know, I mean, just a couple little gems in there. And I mean, if we don't, we're lost. It's all just greed and infighting and lawsuits all the time. I mean, I could sue you guys right now for about $400,000 if I felt something, just by what you guys did to me in the last 2 years. I'm not inclined to do that, but I could, and I've got cause, you know. And people have cause. They deserve a representative government, and we're not getting it.
Thank you, Tim. Anyone else wishing to speak? Last chance. Yes, I will. You'll have to find a way to get over there. Sorry.
Thanks for the
We
apology.
filled up the space.
Start my clock. Karen Corrigan, inside city limits. There's not enough of us speaking. I would need to preface this, of course, that what I'm about to say is my own opinion, not the opinion of the city of Seward, my position in the city clerk's office, or does it affect my position and my ability to work for the city. I'm rather impressed with how quickly there have been so many offers from the outside that want a piece of this town. Joining with CES works against the better of our town. This will move to the destruction of our volunteer organizations, of which I'm a 15-year retired volunteer firefighter with Seward. We don't have paramedics here because our response times are under 10 minutes to the hospital. Somebody from SVAC could probably back me up on that. So there's not a need for the expense of paramedics because they're very expensive to have. Our crews are good and trained, and the EMT3s do an excellent job. We need to keep our power and control here. And CES won't understand our area. We've seen this before with Soldotna taking over 911s. They don't understand the terminology locals use. They don't know Herman Lear Road is Exit Glacier Road to most of us. They don't understand that the east side of town burned down because the Army tried to stop the fire with dynamite, expanding it. Our volunteers understand that history. CES doesn't know that these buildings downtown are balloon construction because they're over 100 years old, and that's what was being used at the time. Less service, I fear we're going to have less service, more cost for our town. And I'm curious, as some may be too hearing this, whether or not the 2 0.1%, sure that's a lot of money, decrease in the mill rate that some was proud of, also includes the Seward's reduction in money to our schools that we constantly receive every year. I don't know, I talked about this at a borough meeting a few years ago, ended up pulling my own daughter out of the school because of promises that remained unfulfilled. And I'm curious, do we still not have a music teacher? Do we still not have an art teacher? My opinion is clear. I don't think we should merge with CES. Again, this is my opinion alone and not a reflection of the city of Seward or my office or my position at the city clerk's office. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Okay.
Becky Dunn, Inside the City. I would like to thank Elby and the rest of the volunteers with ASVAC, Seward Fire, Bear Creek, and Low Point Fire. I came down here when the new Seward fire alarms went off, and I saw all these volunteers in action. My thoughts at the time, I was looking at a 3-story building, and our ladder truck is still not working. So I thought, because we're speaking of fire safety, this would be a good time to bring that up. Maybe we could get an answer, or I would just like to see that. With all the 3-story buildings in town, I feel that I need to get that running. Luckily, it was a small incident, but if it wasn't, that could have been huge. Since fire safety was a hot topic today, I thought it would be a good time to bring it up and ask where the ladder trucks were. Sorry, I messed up my text. All the volunteer organizations are looking for more volunteers, and we'll train you. And now I'm going to run home, so those in Radio Land aren't listening to dead air when the council speaks, but I'll be tuning into 91.7 and 106.1 and listening. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to council and administration comments and responses to citizens' comments, and I'll begin with our city manager.
I would first like to thank the attorney and the council for working through some sometimes confusing resolutions tonight. It was interesting to walk through that with Sam prior to the council meeting, so thank you for that. And I want to say thank you to Melissa Scudder for submitting her application for PACAB. I've worked with her in the past, and it's a great addition to the commission. And Jason, do you have anything to add?
Okay, then I'll start with Councilmember Barnwell. you're ready.
I'm excited to serve another 3 years, thanks to the voters for that support. I disagree with Mr. McDonald. I think we have a pretty good system here and we have a good city. And it's hard to sit up here and listen to those critiques day in and, meeting after meeting. There's not a lot of positives coming up from the audience or the community. There are friends of mine that do, but it would be really nice to hear positive things once in a while. We are volunteers. There are no ulterior motives on my part, and I don't think anybody up here. We're here, I get paid $400 a month, and I think that probably comes down to $2 or $3 an hour. So we're not making money. I don't see anybody here with a huge ego. I don't get why there's so much mistrust. I think we really try hard to do our best. For instance, this fire proposal, I think it's intriguing. I certainly haven't made my mind up. I think there's all kinds of sides to this, and I look forward to diving in and figuring out what we need to do to make a decision here. So that's our task, is to be open-minded, to take all the information in and really listen to all of the people's needs and then make good decisions. Not everyone's going to be happy, but we all have to be civil, and we have to be positive. And I really, really, really ask the citizens to think about that. We are people, we're human, and day in and day out of listening to the negativity is hard. Sewer and electric, I look forward to rebuilding sewer and electric. I have no regrets. It's what it is. The people voted twice. I am looking forward to seeing what we can do with this. We've done it for years, and I think we can pull it off. So I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Finch.
First off, I'd like to say congratulations to the Seward Seahawk football players and the awesome job the coaches did. That was quite interesting to watch that last game. I'd like to thank Seward SVAC for the 30 years I've lived here. They've done an amazing job with just straight volunteers. It's been quite impressive for 30 years to see the response you guys can do. And I know the community appreciates it. It'll be interesting with the electric company. Let's see what comes up, and let's go for it.
Councilmember Wells.
I have no comment this evening.
Okay. Councilmember Calhoun. We know you'll have some.
Well, I have so many things there I'd like to say. I'm going to keep it positive, though. Congratulations to both Seahawks sports teams that won state championships. It's probably been a day or two since that happened to two of the teams all in one season, so that's a great thing. We always want to give our thanks to all of our volunteers in our first responder corps, particularly the ambulance corps and the fire department that have the majority of the volunteers. All of those things will be worth exploring, and we'll get it figured out. For those of you that missed it, the auxiliary, Unit 5, American Legion Auxiliary, had their 100th anniversary dinner last weekend before. It was a Roaring 20s theme. It was a great time. They raised some good money with their silent auction for their Toys for Tots program. So that'll be another great thing come Christmas time. And it's a good organization that we're all a part of, a big family down there. So the other thing too I'd like to say is we still have, if I'm not mistaken, 2 vacancies on the Planning and Zoning Commission. I would like people to think really hard and long about applying for those seats, because all of our boards and commissions are very important, but the Planning and Zoning Commission actually does a lot of work that allows us to do some of our work. Without them, there's things that we can't do. and I won't get into all those details, but if you have any interest in the development of Seward as a whole and the development of their land, their codes, buildings, all that kind of stuff, please think about applying for one of those 2 seats. They are perpetually open right now, and it'd be great to get some good dedicated volunteers in there. Want to congratulate Bob Barnwell and Julie Kreitz for their re-election for Bob, and almost a re-election for Julie since she was here before. To the council, I think it's some good continuity, and Julie will be a good addition to us. I'm going to say, and goodbye to Liz DeMoss, even though, bye Liz, you weren't here tonight. We appreciate all the time that you gave to this community, and hope your future endeavors are just as successful. And that's all I'm going to say right now.
You sure? Maybe. Okay, Vice Mayor Osika.
Pretty much everything I was thinking about saying was stated already. Again, I would congratulate our Seahawk football team and our girls cross-country team. That's pretty fantastic news. I was really glad to hear that. I would also like to just agree and state with Councilmember Calhoun that I thank our volunteers, and I appreciate our volunteers for our first responders in our town. I think they do a fine job. I do agree with Councilmember Barnwell. I think that the comments that we seem to be getting are from not everyone in public comments, but some of the public comments are very, it's not hurtful, I've lost the right word for it, but they're not very complimentary, I guess. I think all that's happening is when that kind of stuff comes at us and continues to come at us month after month, meeting after meeting, all you're doing is telling people that might want to step up and do this, I don't want to do that. I'm not going to get into that. I don't need people saying those things to me meeting after meeting. So niceness would be great. Some appreciation would be, well, deserved, I think. I don't think anybody up here is their own hidden agendas. No one up here has any intent of other than doing what's best for the citizens in the city of Seward. Again, Bob, congratulations on your re-election, and I look forward to working with Julie and Liz. Should have been here so we could say goodbye, but we'll say goodbye some other time. Thank you.
Okay, well, everything's been said already, but I have to reiterate a couple things. It's awesome to have winning teams. It's awesome to have sports teams in general, but when they actually do as well as they have lately, that's extra special. And congratulations to Bob and to Julie, and I wish Liz had been here tonight to have one more meeting, but that's how it goes. And yeah, thank you for bringing up planning and zoning. We do need people on it. I will point out once again that that's how I began my meteoric rise, was back in 2007 on planning and zoning, and look where I am now, you know, so it's definitely a useful thing to do. I don't know how it's been eloquently said, but yes, we appreciate any positive interactions that we get, and you know, I know that people have passionate feelings about things, and this is why we have citizen time, citizen comments, and they're allowed to speak their opinions, but it is nice once in a while to have someone say, hey, you did a good job, you know, so. Anyway, I think that's all I got to say tonight, and so I will adjourn us at 9:08.
Yes.
Oh, I did it.
We're adjourned.
Oh, man.